back in 2006 and 2009, and he regularly runs workshops, does home consultations, and we're very fortunate to have him here tonight. So thank you.
Thank you for that lovely introduction.
And if you want to come down, you can come down, or you can stay up.
Stick this up first. Somewhere.
Do you want to use sticky tape or anything? I'll get some.
You can come in. Can you can't see much?
No, I can hear you. Sure.
Come in this room.
No, I need to leave a little bit early to go and get your chai at the end anyway.
Okay.
So.
You guys not going to be able to see that, are you, behind the door? Okay.
You can use it. You can sit on the whiteboard. Are you going to write on the whiteboard?
You've got the film projector here.
In my way.
You've got the film director here. No, I'm not. Can you just see if that's in focus for us?
I don't know how this works. Where's your...
I'm not going to stand. I feel silly standing. Yeah. I'll reach back there when I need to. Look, a little bit more about me, just to contextualise this, so and I can build a little bit of a relationship with you guys, because I want to take you on a visualisation and a little bit of trust there. So you've got to kind of get to know me just a tiny bit before we can do that. Probably it addresses the key thing that Sean asked me to bring tonight, which is, well, not so much how to apply Vastu or what Vastu is, but what's the relevance of Vastu in our lives? Why do we need to have this thing called Vastu in our lives? What's its use? And for me, it took me many years to figure out why I had gone into architecture, why I had gone into feng shui, why I had gone into Vastu, because it was wounded healer stuff. I have core issues around my sense of place, because I was born in Africa and left there very early when I was 4. Obviously, I'm of Celtic heritage. I'm Irish, I'm Scottish, and I'm English. I'm all three of those. So where do I belong there? And here I am out in this really ancient continent called Australia, and spent most of my life out here. So I feel a little bit pulled in many directions, and feel my sense of place is kind of lacking. I didn't understand that for years. I've been working on all this. I've been teaching, and it suddenly occurred to me when I was doing personal development work. Duh! That's why I work with place, because I've got to heal myself in order to bring that to other people. So for me, I think one of the things that's that we have in our society that's not as good as it could be is people's sense of belonging. And that, I think, is a disconnect from our sense of place. It's a disconnect from the landscape, it's a disconnect from Mother Earth, but it's also a disconnect from our homes that we create, these little miniature universes that we create called houses, and these boxes that we build. So for me, it's been a journey for me to understand what my core needs are around place and space. And in doing that, I've had to go on a journey to search for what are the core archetypal needs, desires, things that are cross-cultural in all cultures around space and place. And as part of that journey, I've looked into Vastu, and it's such a beautiful and coherent system. And frankly, if you're into the Vedic sciences, if you're into yoga, if you're into Ayurveda, if you don't have an understanding or an application of Vastu, from my perspective, there's something really missing. It's that analogy, the allegory of yoga, the two wings that help you fly, being yoga being one wing and Ayurveda being the other. My kind of take on that is, that's fine, off you go and fly, but you've got to land sometime. And you want to land somewhere beautiful and somewhere restful and somewhere that's going to support you in order for you to fly again, because you're not going to stay in the air all the time. So for me, that's that science of Vastu is so important to give us that stable base. And the stable base is the home, this place where we nurture ourselves, this place where we retract to, we retire to, in order to build up our prana in order to go back out into the world again. So for me, it's really important our relationship with our space, our relationship with our home, because we affect our environment and our environment radically affects us on many different levels. So for me, I was a mainstream architect, interior designer. When I was 33, I had a spiritual awakening. I was in the corporate realms as a corporate designer. I had a spiritual awakening, a fairly strong one, because I was very ingrained in my rational humanist, I've modelled myself very much on my father's non-belief systems. So I had a major spiritual awakening, and I went on a quest to find out what it all meant to me. And part of that was, well, here I am, an architect, I'm an interior designer, I'm a draftsman. What do I do with that relative to my spiritual interests? And I came across feng shui, and I came across Vastu. I came across Vastu first through my exploration of yoga. So I went to India to learn Vastu, and that was interesting. It was a variety of, I saw possibly about a dozen different teachers while I was there, from all around India, and met with a broad range of ways people approached that to teach us what Vastu was. We were discussing just before over dinner. One particular pundit I remember saying, why are you here? It addressed to all of us, not just me in particular, but why are you here? You guys have come from Australia and you're in India. Don't you have your own cultural background around place? Well, yeah, kind of. Well, why are you here? And apart from that, I really can't teach you anything about Vastu. Go and study yoga for 20 years. Come back and we can talk and we can have a conversation on Vastu. Now, to some extent, that was very arrogant. And on another level, it was really true. I have pretty much almost spent the last 20 years studying around Vastu. And to really immerse yourself in Vastu, you have to have an understanding of yoga, you have to have an understanding of Ayurveda, and they're all the same. So if you've studied, is everyone in this room studied Ayurveda to some extent or another? Well, then you'll find Vastu very, very simple to apply and very easy to get a handle on the main precepts and the core ideas of Vastu, because it's working with energy, it's working with the 5 elements. And if you've already got that, an understanding of that and how they react and how they work with each other, you're halfway there. You've just got to now start thinking about, okay, I'm used to looking at this as an internal environment. I talk about the 3 skins. So you've got your own skin, you then got your clothing, you've then got your building. So it's a similar system. You're looking at it, and in Ayurveda you're looking at a closed system. As soon as you close up a system, you get a miniature universe and you get the forces of the 5 elements working with and against each other. In Vastu, it's exactly the same. We're really looking at the body of the building like the body of a human being, to the extent that the ancient texts describe this beautiful diagram here. And I'm really more likely to concentrate at this point, this little diagram in the middle, which is a square. And very simply, I'm going straight into where I wasn't going to go so fast, but it's all right. In fact, before that comes, really, we're talking about doing something like that. I've done it the wrong way around. I think I'm jumping too far to go into that. I'm going to just take a step backwards. I wanted to do a little visualisation, which I'll do first before we go into the body of the knowledge. I kind of just enthusiastically jumped in a little quicker than I thought I was going to. So if we just close our eyes and just get comfortable and relaxed. It's a visualisation, it's not a meditation, so if you need to fidget or move, that's okay, but just stay with me. Don't try and remember what I'm saying. I just want to take you on a little journey to give you a bit of a feeling for Vastu. So I'm really kind of appealing to your subconscious rather than your conscious mind, so just relax into it, and if you land up in the visualisation going elsewhere and hanging out with the birds somewhere, that's perfectly fine. So just breathing in and out through your nose. And just relaxing your body. Nam karta prabodhit Tahi Kevalam. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I want you to imagine you're out in a landscape, and I will describe that landscape for you. I want you to imagine yourself sitting cross-legged on the ground. It's a beautiful early morning sunny day. And you're sitting on the ground in a large flat area. And right behind you, you have your back up against a wooden staff which has been placed in the ground. That staff happens to be exactly the same height as you would be if you were standing upright with your arms raised above you and your fingers touching, pointing to the sky. It's been placed into the ground, so the staff above the soil is exactly your height. You notice ever so subtly on your left hand side a very short shadow being cast from that wooden staff as the sun rises on your right hand side. The sun is rising on your right hand side. We know that that is the direction of east. In front of you is the direction of north, the glorious north, the verdant north, a beautiful green, lush landscape dressed in a mantle of verdant green. Slightly to the right of that, in the northeast, the land falls away to a beautiful river with a beautiful lake. And you see the river dropping over a waterfall. And the spray rises up into the air, and the sun streams through the particles of water like crystals, and a beautiful small rainbow appears in the mist. And you can see the sparkling droplets of water, and you recognize and feel the beautiful sattvic prana that's coming from that northeast direction, from that beautiful rainbow waterfall. Your consciousness turns slightly further to your right, and you see the rising sun, the glorious sun. With it, as it rises, it brings beautiful understanding, beautiful connection and consciousness. And we know that from that sun, all life on earth is spawned. Slightly further round, behind our right shoulder, we notice some women cooking by a fire, and some priests a little further, and they're chanting around a fire and pouring ghee into the fire as they chant beautiful mantras, and you can just hear the mantras coming toward you. Can you realize out in front of you on this beautiful open space that there's a pit? You also notice a diagram on the ground of a square divided into 9 and then divided again by 3, so that it's many little squares, and each square has a Sanskrit syllable written inside it in the beautiful dirt. In front of you is a square pit, about as deep as it is square, and in that beautiful pit, it's beautiful because it's full of lovely flowers and beautiful dals, bright orange dals and beautiful colours. And you see glints of the most precious jewels and semi-precious jewels and precious metals of gold and silver and semi-precious metals of lead and other metals. You realise that ceremony has been going on and taking place. You notice behind you that you feel held and embraced and feel safe. Behind you, the ground rises up. The earth is mounded, and the gentle hill progresses behind you into quite large mountains behind that, all in a lovely yellow earth colour. We swing around to our right hand side, and there is a beautiful and dense forest there. We notice the dark colours of the beautiful tree trunks, and we feel a breeze coming from that direction. As we move further back up toward the north, in the northwest, we feel quite a strong breeze coming from that direction. And that triggers our consciousness that there's things to do in this day. There's changes to be made, and our intellect kicks into gear. And we slowly open our eyes and find ourselves sitting in the middle of this cleared space, in this middle of this Vastu. Vastu is the plane of existence on which is built the Vastu, or the building. We can slowly open our eyes when we're ready. It's kind of a bit of a condensed version. I don't know how coherent that was. I'm just trying to get a little bit of a sense that there's different energies coming in and different qualities of energy coming in from different directions. And that's one of the most important precepts of Vastu, that the elements themselves, as we know from Ayurveda, have qualities to them, but the directions are also associated with those elements and quadrants of our home. So it's a direction is a direction in which we face, but it's also a portion or a section of that home. So we'll talk about both of those so we understand what that means. So this diagram here, the centre part of it is based on ancient texts, and it describes the Purusha of the land, or the Purusha of the dwelling, or the spirit of the dwelling. So for many years in my quest for understanding of spaces was this whole idea: is there a spirit of the home? Is there a spirit in the land? Is it alive? Is it living? Is it conscious? And all the time the Vastu diagram was sitting there in front of me with a physical diagram showing me that not only does in the Vedic sciences is that acknowledged, it's actually even shown. So this is encoded, like many mandalas are. Everything you need to know is in a very basic little diagram. So if you get confused, go back to this little diagram, and I've got one for everyone. There's not a lot of information on there, but the diagram itself is there, and hopefully that'll help you remember. So we can just pass those around. Now what that is the Vastu Purusha. Now Vastu basically means dwelling, or space, if you like. And Shastra, of course, is just a treatise. That's all it means. So we're talking about the science of space, or the science of buildings, is what Vastu Shastra says. Yes. Now it comes by a number of different names. You've got Vastu, you've got Vastu Veda, you've got Vastu Vidya, you've got various traditions sort of vying for ownership of it to some extent. And it's becoming popularised very quickly around the world. A little bit, in my opinion, it follows a similar trajectory to that of Feng Shui, that it seems that Chinese, that possibly was the exercises from China like Qigong and Tai Chi that took off first, and then Chinese medicine, or one of those two, they sort of took off together. And then following from that, when people sort of became interested in that, eventually Feng Shui re-emerged, because Feng Shui nearly died off in China. It was pretty much almost put to death. And in India it was pretty much the same, that Vastu as an everyday thing to some extent has been losing popularity. But with the introduction of the Vedic sciences into the West, there's been this revival. And yoga was probably the first to really take off in the West, followed by Ayurveda, now following by Vastu. Finally, kind of thing. It's kind of, well, what else is there? What else do I need to know? What's the complete system? And I think the Chinese offer a complete system in terms of Chinese medicine, in terms of Qigong and Tai Chi and Feng Shui. And so does India. India offers a full system. In my opinion, Feng Shui is the great-great-granddaughter or son of Vastu, is the great-great-grandfather. Based on a lot of research and based on the mandalas that Feng Shui use as well as the mandalas that Vastu use, there's clear correlations that they're family. And I would suggest that Vastu, like a lot of other things, and I postulate the same with Chinese medicine, that it's Vedic-based originally. That doesn't mean it's better. It just means it's different and it's older and it's kind of got that seed knowledge. Or, I use a little phrase you've probably heard many times, that the seed was planted in India and the tree grew in China and it blossomed in Japan. There's something to be said for that in terms of environmental systems. That's quite true in terms of how that works. So this diagram here also represents a myth. And part of, I think, the beauty of what Vastu is it mythologizes your life and it mythologizes your home. Now, what I mean, we can all have different interpretations of what mythology is. Joseph Campbell says what's mythology is someone else's religion, which I think is quite a good description of what mythology is. But it's basically looking at your universe from a cosmological perspective or a energetic perspective or a spiritual perspective. Now, Vastu can very much help us live in our own world and deepen our practices by inviting and understanding our environment and having that environment support us in a harmonious way. And that's what Vastu, at the end of the day, all it's trying to do is bring us into sympathetic vibration with our own homes, bring our homes into sympathetic vibration with us, and bring our homes into sympathetic vibration with the universe itself. As I was sort of saying before, was as Ayurveda looks at the body, because it's a relatively closed system, same with the house. As soon as you put 4 walls up, we've created a universe, and as soon as we've created a little universe, the 5 elements are going to operate within that universe and take on a life of their own, basically. So this myth is of the Vastu Purusha, and very simplistically, the myth goes something to the extent that once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there was this unruly demon or these unruly energies in the universe, and it was creating chaos. In fact, it was chaos itself. And so the planet Earth, for instance, was bubbling over with volcanoes and earthquakes and lightning, and it was just, everything was everywhere. It wasn't a universe in which human beings could live. It wasn't a universe that had any level of a sympathy to our systems, to enabling life. It wasn't a universe that could foster life. So, long story cut short, a series of the gods got very annoyed at this very, very destructive demon that was going around and creating chaos everywhere. So they went back to Shiva and they said, listen, each one of us in our own right is not strong enough to deal with this destructive and chaotic force in the universe. How are we going to deal with this? And even Shiva himself said, this demon's really got out of control. It is, so chaotic. If we all approach it and we all kind of look after it, and together we might be able to bring this under control. So they chased the demon and they eventually pinned him onto the earth, and they pinned him down face down, and all the gods sat on him. And they sat into these squares. And as you can see, there's 9 by 9 squares in this particular... There's a couple of different grids, by the way, but I won't confuse you with that. So all the gods sat on him and forced him down onto the ground. And eventually he said, all right, I give in. I'll do whatever it is that you say, but I need to protest. And he said to Shiva, he said, now listen, you created me, and I am just being that which you created. I am by my own nature chaos. So why are you doing this to me? And Shiva went, oh, well, that's a fair enough point. I better think about that one for a bit. So they all sat on him for a little bit longer and fussed him into the ground. And then Shiva said, okay, I've got it. Now that we've created some level of harmony in the universe, we're going to create these wonderful little creatures called human beings, and I will get each one of those human beings to adore and honour and worship you. And the Vastu Prusha thought, yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, it's a deal. So he agreed that he would remain face down onto the earth in a quiet and harmonious way if we agreed to honour him. This story was told